Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch Harlan, and welcome to the Truth Talks podcast. As promised, we have part 3, and my guest today is River Lakey, the star of the show. River, how are you?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. So you are part 3 of the series of River's Promise. And I talked, part 1 was with producer Chad, and we got his experience filming and giving all the footage of River's Promise. Second one was your dad. Big crybaby. He's a big crybaby, man. A man that's done more than pretty much anyone I know, that's taken something from a small grassroots type of project and made it something phenomenal. We're going to talk a lot about River's Promise and that work. But there's a thing called River's Promise, and it's named after you. Now we got to get into what that's all about. So you returned to Rwanda for the first time as an adult. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that experience, a little bit about what you learned about yourself?
Well, pretty much just I learned. Big point is I'm blessed. Really, when I got there, I was like, okay, I'm older now. I can really take things into like consideration of what happened and where I've been and like where I am now, instead of when I went those other times when I was in third grade or whenever it was. And now when I got there, I was just like, wow. I was just blown. Holy crap! Like even when we weren't in the village, really, when we were just driving around the city, I was like, this is where I was. Like this is where I could have been. Like if had this like not happened, So
That's got to be pretty surreal, right? Like, I was, as we were doing this, and we talked a little bit off air about this. I'm an old man now. You're just starting your life, and there's a lot of sentimental stuff about me, because when I hear your story, I'm thinking, man, what an amazing, amazing opportunity for this young man. And then you've turned it into something spectacular for your parents and everybody that's involved. But the story starts out with you were dropped off in front of a home in a ditch, and you literally still had the scab on your umbilical cord. So life and death was right there. To now sitting here on a talk show, getting ready to go to college, that is a magnificent story just to begin with. So tell me what you heard the first time about the beginning of your life where it just kind of set you back a second.
When I was in the house with the family that found me, it was so surreal, because they were saying like, well, he was in this ditch, right? Like he was right here. And when the mom found you, we were like, no, you're too old. And then when they said that created a whole domino effect. And when we talked about the rest that happened, I was just like, holy, like I was just mind blown. I just sat there while everyone was just conversing, and I was just thinking, wow,
they're talking about you.
Yeah, this is something. Like I really couldn't believe it, but I mean, it's something good to believe. So
I kind of look back to, and because we want your story to be so amazing, and I was thinking about my childhood, and I'm thinking, when do I actually have my first recollection of memory? When is that for you? When was the first time you can sit there and say, okay, now I start remembering things? Were you in the first, second, third grade here?
I would say that's a good question. I'd probably say third grade is when I started to like recollect things and like go back and say like, oh yeah, wait a minute, I remember those people. Like, oh okay, like, but I mean, at this like 3 years old is a hard age to remember things. Like,
right.
It's really a tough age.
But when you went back and you saw those third graders,
Mm-hmm.
right, and they're running out, did you ever at any moment say, man, that could have been me?
Oh, definitely. I saw them and I was thinking, wow, that kid could have been me. Or I see some of the kids, I'm like, dang, like he reminds me like just of like I'm looking in a mirror right now. I mean, so it was.
There's a thing called survivor's remorse, and that's where a person survived something or came out of something. Did you have any of that, or I guess what's your sensation, or what was your feeling knowing that you got brought to America, you've got all these opportunities? When you see them come out, did you say, thank God I'm here, or did you say I want to do more to help these people have the same opportunities I did?
I mean, really, when you see them, you just like all you want to do is just help. Like when you see the kids playing around, I mean, they're so happy, but all you can do, like when you see them in these like tattered clothes and just it's just all you really want to do is just help. And that's all I felt when I got there the first day. I just I'm ready to help. Like what what's next for Rivers Promise? And
Well, you know, producer Chad told me something that that it kind of hit me hard. He says, you know, people with so little, but they seem so happy. And so you see these happy, they're laughing and smiling and carrying on. Did you ever think though at that point of, man, there's so much more?
oh, all the time. It's there's so much more to just like over here. We're so fortunate to have all of these things. I mean, when we were playing with there's this moment where we were sharing like the Snapchat filters with them, and so they're just so happy to have the littlest things. Like I, my friends were blown away by them being happy with us giving them packs of stickers. Like they would play with the stickers, and then some like I think we went there the next day and there's kids still had stickers on them because it was something so meaningful to them. And we just take so many things like for granted over here in America, and it's just
So at what point during the trip did you apologize to your dad for not
apologize.
picking up like your clothes, for giving him flack about
Well, I
it?
mean, you know, it's still I'm still a boy, you know, I'm still a kid, still a
You didn't know
teenager.
any different,
Yeah,
did you?
yeah,
You grew up here. You didn't know any different
right,
until you got back there.
yeah,
And then you saw that I mean, producer Chad was talking about people literally living and sleeping under banana trees, right?
right,
That had to be pretty surreal for you too.
yeah. I mean, it was I I still well up until when I went back in the third grade, I always remember like it could be like a lot worse. Like it could be just so much worse. And I mean, that's why I tell all my friends, like my boys, like it could be so much worse. Like why are you weeping over this little thing? I mean, we're so fortunate over here, and that's what I tell everyone that's affiliated with me. I just I make sure I get that message across.
Is that even more and reinforced now that you've been just came back?
Oh, definitely, yeah, yeah,
Because you know, even we talked about that in the first episode, part one. We were talking about just all the stuff that we should learn from them, right? Having so little, but yet finding a way of being happy. And here we are, we have everything, and half the time we're miserable, right?
mm-hmm.
Which is interesting, and I understand that there's probably a big gap in there, and also kind of the thing you got to America very young, like extremely young. Tell me about when you first recall coming to the United States or being in the United States with your dad. And here's where I'm going with this. Your dad is obviously white.
Right.
Was there any point in your time in your life where people questioned that or said anything about it?
I would say in school, like when I went to Discovery Canyon, it was like I definitely still had like a language barrier. Like I still my teachers talked about how I was still struggling with vocabulary and all this other stuff. And then when all my friends from the school saw my dad, they're like, hold up, something isn't like going, like something isn't right here. And so it was, I think definitely that it didn't bother me. Like I wasn't ashamed of anything.
Yeah, but did it
was
give you an
still,
opportunity to start explaining things?
yeah, it definitely did. And people started asking, and even up until when I moved up to Frederick, that's really when people were like, wait, who is this kid? Like, what's his story? Like, why is his dad white? You know, so that there was always that.
So what I love most about the story was the stuff that they had to go through to get you adopted. As far as we know, you're the last to leave there. And of course, you know, we run a lot of faith-based stories. And I asked you before, you're a believer. And then it's hard to probably put that into words. Why were you chosen?
It's still I'm still thinking about like why me, not in a bad sense, but it's still what is God planning for me in the future, you know? And that's what I'm always thinking, like I gotta do good. I gotta be a good example. I gotta do great things because greater things are ahead. So
Which is where I wanted to lead. And I'm glad you went there. Do you feel a sense of responsibility, or is it something that you feel down deep that you want to change? Rivers Promise has come a long, long way. Your dad has done some of the most amazing stuff I've ever seen anybody do. It's now at a point too where he even talked about during his podcast that he's going to have to pass the baton. Is he passing the baton to you?
he is, yeah. I mean, there's still gonna be. I'm gonna be in college, and I still have to take my path. But I'm still definitely ready to take on Rivers Promise and start new projects and do bigger things and do great things for the world. So
And what would Rivers Promise mean to you? What do you want to see now that you've seen these kids? They're getting opportunity, and opportunity there is their way out. It's their way to maybe get to America, maybe get a trade, maybe get something where they're not as impoverished, right? And I know it's a big baton, and you're going to have some time, and I think he's probably going to do it for quite some time. But when you were there and you witnessed it, did that really spur you on to say, no, this is something that I must carry on?
definitely, I saw the kids when I talked about all you want to do is help. That's what I was thinking about. Like, I don't have ideas yet, but really, I mean, they talked about like a university or something. So I mean, so it's really, what can I do to help? Like all I want to do is help. So,
And was there anybody there that caught your attention a little bit more than another on this trip?
like as in kid wise,
Yeah.
well, there's this one kid. I think the first day he was just glued to me. Like he always like grabbing my hand, wanted to hold my hand, and I mean, I wish I knew the kid's name. I'm sure I have a picture of him somewhere, but he was just right there, and he reminded me of me because he was lighter than all the children, but he always was right there. He was a pretty quiet kid. He giggled sometimes, but he was just holding my hand the whole entire day. And then the second day I got there, he found me holding my hand, and it was something sweet. So
That's amazing, and I think everybody should experience that, right? I think if everybody in the world got to experience what you got to experience, it would probably change the way that we look and treat each other for sure. This entire school that your dad has been mostly responsible for doing, it really teaches us education. And I want to talk, because you're still in school,
right.
I want to talk about the difference between the school there, how the students enjoy and look forward to going to school, versus what you actually see here.
I would say school there it's thought of as a blessing, since some people can't even, like, you have to pay for school. And I mean, some people over here, our parents pay for school. We don't have to worry about paying. At least some of us don't have to. And so we take education so for granted, while over there they treat education as a gem. They treat it as not like knowledge is power. And just some people over here they don't care for education. I mean, their parents raised them, and they're like, okay, I'm good. I don't need math. I don't need science. I don't need any of this. Mom and dad's gonna pay for it.
Yeah.
Some people over there, they don't have a mom and dad, or they're trying to get off the side of the road and start their own journey. So,
Do you talk about that with people? Do you ever get tired of talking about it? People asking you questions?
I mean, it's really grown-ups asking me questions. I enjoy conversations with grown-ups, but I mean, all of my friends and everyone at the school, really. Some people are mature enough to have conversations, but I mean, not really everyone I talk to is mature enough to really dive deep into what America is like compared to Africa is like, and what blessings we have over here. So,
Well, it's true. And, again, as you get older, you start to think about things quite a bit different. You start thinking much, much differently. And we as adults, especially after having a conversation with your dad, I could sense this huge, overwhelming pride in you. Now, this is where, again, we talk a little bit about the old guy versus young guy, right? And so tell us a little bit about the relationship between you and your dad.
well, I mean, it's a good relationship. I think most of my friends, like, they kind of long for that relationship with my dad. I mean, he's always there for me. He's always proud. He's always very supportive. it's never really a dull moment. He's a good dad. He should be proud. So
Do you look at him as the guy who saved you, or do you look at him as just your dad?
I mean, the guy who saved me, but he's a dad. So he's a dad. So.
This is the point where you're supposed to cry and it helps out.
I can't really cry. I don't know. It's hard to cry.
No, because I can cry for you, because it's I have two boys, and the end game as a father is just watching your kid mature and go on and maybe get further educated or perhaps have an incredible family, good job, all that kind of stuff, and that really is the win. That's the win in life. And you're getting ready to go to college. I know your dad feels like he won. And I hope you feel that. Because after we did part 2, there was this sensation that I always love. And it has nothing to do with adopting this young boy from Rwanda. It was all about a son. And that to me is some of the most emotional heartstring things. And again, I know you're going to realize this when you're old, because when you have kids, you're going to realize what you meant to him and how precious that feeling is. And there's a lot of people over there that probably don't ever have that feeling, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's where River's Promise has been just amazing, because I think they're going to be able to get different educations, maybe get a trade or something that allows them to find affluence over there. And then when they have children, potentially change the entire atmosphere. That's named after you. That's powerful.
That is very powerful. Yeah.
And what happens when you were over there? Obviously, they know what River's Promise is. Did they think you were a celebrity?
I mean, I don't really know. Everyone just stares at me. Really, it's funny because they stare at me, and then it's.
Do you think they dream? Do you think they're dreaming?
They're definitely. I can see it in their eyes. Like they're definitely dreaming. They're definitely saying, "This is the guy." I don't know. I mean, really,
no, I think that's probably
it's really They're saying this is the guy. I mean,
and how does that affect you for the rest of your life? Do you feel an obligation to do the best you can possibly do for not only for yourself but for all those kids counting on you?
Definitely, it's definitely heart touching. Like that's probably the closest thing that's to my heart. I think about it like 24/7. So sure I mess up, but it's always just do your best. Just do your best and think about like what kind of future you can have. What kind of like touch you have on other people. What like who you're doing it for really. And that's always what's in the back of my mind over and over and over.
Which I'm glad it is.
Have, yeah.
Tell me about some of the people that you met over there and how they affected you.
Well, I would say, Pastor Willie, he's just like a loving guy. And he's pretty much the guy he was like the bridge to my dad and pretty much. He was the bridge. And so he really, like, he's a God-loving guy. Like, he loves God. And so I think his like God's reach on him really, like, I think God's reach on him, God's reach on me, I think those are like two like huge factors. And I mean, me seeing people out there in the village and everyone, like, there's people I didn't even like, there's old people I don't even remember, and they're like, "Oh, Kazungu, how are you?" Or, "Yeah, Kazungu, how are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't even know you, man." They're giving me hugs, and I'm like, it's my family. So
what did you and Willie have any conversations? What does he say to you?
He just says, just keep doing good. Just keep going. Like, you have a good future going, and Jesus loves you. That's what he tells me.
That's his message.
Yeah, that's his message. I mean, he's a funny guy. We joke around. I mean, nothing gets really too deep, but I mean, I know he's there. I know he's a God-loving guy. So
what about anybody else who touched you? Because I know there was a lady that took you in and played and brought you to her home and played. What did she say to you? Or what was your reaction when you met her this time?
I was the big one, like the home run was when she brought out the picture of me, and I was like, God knows, like how long has she had this picture? When did she find this picture? No, but like when did how long has she had this picture? And because I haven't seen it the past 2 times. My dad's never seen that picture, and like that just reminds me of she's always thinking about me. Like she's always like people over there, they're always thinking about me, and that's another thing where it's like my motivation, where like people are always praying for me, looking out for me, and seeing her talking about me and just my life as a youngin, pretty much. That was incredible.
That's
just,
powerful, isn't
yeah.
it?
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's just unbelievably powerful. Tell me about some of the other people that are in your life from there.
The people at the family at the house that we were at, they were all so happy. It was like I felt like I was home pretty much when they brought me in. And
Do you feel an attachment there?
oh, definitely. I wish there's still that language barrier, but it's still we can all sit there and think and just.
All right, I got a question. I got a question for you. I'm from Missouri. It's where my parents are from. My brothers live there.
Right.
I've lived in Colorado longer than I lived in Missouri. Growing up there. Missouri's still my home. As crazy as that sounds, because even my kids are Colorado natives, but Missouri's my home. Do you have any of that feeling?
Definitely. When I say, like, everyone's like, "Where are you going?" Oh, I'm going home. Like.
So it feels like home there.
It feels like home there. I'm this time it definitely felt like home there. I mean, the past times, yeah, I'm going back to where I'm from, but this past time definitely felt like home.
So a different emotional connection,
totally
for sure.
Different.
Tell me about the 3 gentlemen that we were talking about earlier.
John Paul, he was kind of like my brother. He still calls me brother, and I still call him brother, to be honest. And he was one of the two kids that looked out for me in the orphanage. And Vincent, they were just the 2 brothers. And whenever someone was picking on me, they'd beat him. I don't know, they'd beat him up or something. But they're my 2 bros. And then Quisera, he was pretty much like my twin, and those 3 they're still all in Rwanda. But really, Quisera, he was. I think every photo that mom and dad have, Quisera was right next to me, and he was in school this past time, so I couldn't really see him, which was kind of a bummer. But he was.
So that story is the one that gets me pretty hard, because it's one of those things where I know your dad felt a loss there, right? Scored a huge win with you. But there was still a little bit of a loss. He wanted him,
right,
and couldn't get him. And from what you know about his story, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel sad. It makes me feel really, really sad. I mean, he's still fortunate because we still helped him in a way, but it's still kind of like it's like, dang, like I could have. Like we could have, like what happened, But it's still. I made a promise to him one day that if he isn't able to come to America, then I'll help him come to America, and I mean, he could live with me, and he could just see what it's like to live the life that I've been living, because he really deserves that. I mean, every kid deserves that, and so. Since he was pretty much like my brother, that's what I want to do for him. So.
That one was the hard one for me, and I know that was really hard on your dad too, and I'm sure your mom as well. But your dad and I talked about that, and that was tough, because you know that you're going to give this kid an opportunity to live a phenomenal life, and you got to leave one behind. Like I can't even imagine that. Like that would be the hardest thing in the world for me, but which I'm sure it was for him as well, and it's certainly what it sounded like. What do you feel when you're back there, though, and your dad is a quasi celebrity?
It's funny because all of the people are they're so mesmerized by him. They treat him like an actual celebrity. It's kind of funny to see and watch. And whenever he's doing his like moves, I guess, when he's dancing, they're all laughing, and it's just a good time. Like they all love him, and yeah, it's just he gets the celebrity treatment pretty much.
You know, a lot of times celebrities are people you see on a big screen. Sometimes they're somebody that can sing. He's changing lives, like completely changing lives. And so it's probably a different type of celebrity, right? I'm sure there's some sort of connection that they feel with him. And you can feel that when he's there?
Definitely, yeah. He's like a teddy bear over there. Like he's just, even the kids, like when we were in the kindergarten classroom, he was singing with them, clapping with them, singing Barrage. Like it was a good moment for sure. Like seeing him connect with the people. Since he's been back there multiple times. The last time I saw him, we didn't really, I mean, we talked to people, but I wasn't really in the mindset to be like, wow, that's my dad. Like he's interacting with those people and he's dancing with them. He's hugging them. He's holding the babies. He's kissing the babies. So it's, yeah.
Yeah, he did. There's footage of him holding babies, right? Yeah. Which, you know, it is something. I did talk to him on part 2 about you leaving, and I thought for sure he'd end up being a bumbling crying, but he was prepared for me. He knew exactly where I was going with it. But there has to be one more Rivers promise, and this is a Rivers promise to me. You got to call the old man at least once a week, check in on him, because he's going to be a mess.
Okay, all right.
You got to promise you're going to call the old man and check in.
I'll make that promise. Yeah.
So where do you see yourself after college? You're getting ready to start college now. Going to be playing some football, so let's hope you keep all your limbs and all that good stuff, because it's D1, a whole new ball game right there, right? After college, what do you see yourself doing?
Hopefully I'm doing a pro day and entering the draft. But I just want to promise myself to make enough money to give back to home pretty much, and just help those people and start a whole new domino effect. And hopefully my son can see that, and I can raise my son like my dad did, and he'll be like, dang, I did good. If my son's this good, then he's gonna do all right. And so hopefully that's where I want to see myself, is just being the best and giving back.
You know, I don't necessarily believe in the word privilege. I think that people who are privileged means someone before them did something in order to make the next generation privileged. And so sometimes I think that word in that conversation gets a little off skewed, but we want your kids to be privileged. We want them to also continue to carry on this Rivers promise. I mean, just all the stuff that's been done from here to where it's at now. Imagine the next 20 years. You could affect thousands, tens of thousands alive in Rwanda. The last question that I want to ask you, and I think it's really, really super important to understand, when you've come to America, and America is, for all intents and purposes, falling apart. Your story is one of that could have turned a million different ways, but it didn't. And I always believe that there's a message there. I believe that River Lakey has been given a gift to really tell people how fortunate that they actually are. So if you were going to talk to the world, talk to the United States of America, what would you tell them?
It could be so much worse. It really could. I mean, you're so fortunate to not be afraid, I guess, and people shouldn't be afraid, and that's what really drives the world crazy, is being scared. And I mean, you're just so blessed to have so many little things. I mean, it makes me sad, honestly. It really does. And I feel like we just got to do better. And we got to, in Rwanda, I see people helping people. And over here, I don't see people helping people. I see people saying, that's not me. I don't like them. I'm different than them. So why should I like them? And it's just like, I don't see any like like Democratic or Republic side in Rwanda. Like there's no like nobody cares about in Rwanda if you're white, black, purple, brown. Like it really there's no race in Rwanda. I mean, there's no like really all like I see smiles over there. Like why can't we smile? You know, like what's so why are you sad? Like what's it's just it hurts. It hurts to talk about. It's a lot, and hopefully someday I get put up on a pedestal so I can talk to people. I can talk to the next generation and say, this is where you got to start. This is how you live a happy life. This is how you can helping people makes you feel better. It makes you a better person. It gives you character, and that's really all I want to do. I hope someday I can get up there to where I can preach how to be just a genuine good person, how to be generous, how to be courteous, how to just even live in Christ if you believe. And so that's yeah.
Well, I don't think there's any mistakes in life. I don't think that there was this baby put in this ditch, the lady pulling you out wanting to keep you, taking you to that particular, the orphanage that you went to the lady coming to get you to play with you, to the 3 gentlemen that we talked about, to River's promise being born. I don't think any of that's a mistake. And I don't want to put too much on your shoulders, but I do hope you carry that on and really spread that message, because the whole world needs it, probably more so here than anywhere else. And what cracks me up about all this is Papa Kazungu is part of this. That's the part that probably cracks me up the most, right? Of all the characters in the world, that's the last guy that I would have probably put my money on that he's going to change the world, right? And yet he did. And man, I really hope you, and I know you do, but I hope one day when you get some gray hair and you get settled in life, man, you look back on that man and your mom and you look back on them and you say, wow, that's just amazing what these people were able to do and why they did it. And fulfill the promise that they made to you. This is one of the most heroic things I've ever heard of. But River Lakey, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. You
Yes,
were part 3 of 3. We got to have this again, obviously,
Definitely.
when you get old, and hopefully I'm not dead. But I want to do it at some point, because I do believe you were touched. I believe that part of the world's responsibility fell on you. And now it's up to you. We're all watching you.
Oh, goodness. Thank you.
You betcha. Awesome.